Dwayne Moody reports.
The sexual exploitation of and sexual violence against children is a serious issue plaguing the world. In Belize, there are constant incidents that have slipped under the radar. Since 2004, the Youth Enhancement Services, YES, and the Ministry of Human Development have been working on the ground to reach out to the victims as well as the perpetrators of sexual crimes against boys and girls.
It's very much, as I said, part and parcel of a more holistic response on sexual violence in all its forms: human trafficking, sexual abuse, sexual assault, rape, even issues of sexual harassment, sexual exploitation. And the expertise of the YES, as you know, is to focus on children and young people, usually especially girls, but they're expanding out to also include boys, because boys sometimes are very much silent victims of sexual violence. So they really have a complete gender perspective on this, in terms of looking at how things manifest for girls as well as for boys, as young men and young women.
Today, a campaign ad, the third of its kind, entitled Sexual Violence is No Joke, was launched at a brief ceremony at the Biltmore Plaza with a commercial advertisement. The campaign will last 3 years and seeks to get the society to stop sexual crimes in its tracks. This, says Director Karen Kane, is because some of these crimes occur within the home setting by acts of commission or omission by the family.
We have launched two previous campaigns. One was entitled back in 2004, No Means No, Use Your Voice. That campaign was encouraging young people to speak up against sexual violence. The second campaign, My Future Is Not For Sale, was about the sexually exploited child, the sugar daddy, sugar mama syndrome. This campaign is based off those two campaigns because those issues still affecting us today, and so we're saying sexual violence is no joke. We want this campaign to be geared towards young people in general, especially since they just returned back to school. We are asking young men and women, and we're specifically targeting young men as well this time in our campaign, because we know that they too have been sexually violated. And so we want young people on a whole to report these cases, seek help wherever is necessary. And our aim will be going into communities, going on the radio, going on the television, trying to do more public awareness on the issue, because at times it's still a taboo. People are afraid to talk about it. People sometimes don't, when you mention the sex, they get all giggly and nervous and don't want to talk about it.
For CEO in the Ministry of Human Development, this public education piece is just as important as the interventions and laws recently put in place to address sexual crimes perpetrated against the youth.
As you know, in the recent past, we have passed legislation to give us better legal tools to deal with perpetrators. Things like broadening the definition of sexual assault and abuse, actually recognizing that both boys are victims of violence, of abuse, as well as women are perpetrators of sexual violence. And so the laws have really, the amendment of the Criminal Code, the passage of the Commercial Sexual Exploitation Prohibition Act, the new Trafficking Persons Prohibition Act really give us better tools to work with this. But it has to be a holistic response. And this is the first piece of the puzzle, the prevention piece, because we will not truly eradicate sexual violence until society stands up and says, this is not acceptable. This is not what we want for our children, for our young people. This is not what we want for our women, for our men.
The advocacy campaign is being funded by the UN Trust to end violence against women.
Under our Women's Department, we are administering funds from the UN Trust to end violence against women, and it has been ongoing for the past 2.5 or so years. We're actually at the tail end, and it has many components, including training for the various stakeholders and frontline personnel, the refinement and even development of protocols and procedures, etc., all on the whole issue of gender-based violence.
So many times campaigns are geared towards helping the victims, but we want to speak to the conscience, if there is such a thing, of a perpetrator, to say, look, what would you do if this happened to your own sister, your mother, your father? The commercial today that we are hoping to show will highlight something like that.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
When we come back, the sights and sounds of the 2015 Carnival Road Mart.